the Confluence seat price doesn't go down. 10 users, 50 users, 100, every active editor is another line on the Atlassian invoice. 3 open-source team wikis that run on your own infrastructure for the cost of a VPS, and the specific Atlassian glue you will miss the moment you are gone.
The glue to name before anything else, Confluence's Jira integration is not a feature you turn off, it's load-bearing for teams that really use it. Sprint boards embedded in docs, live issue tables pulled from a JQL query, Epic linked pages updated automatically. Those are not wiki capabilities. They are Atlassian integration capabilities. Pick your replacement based on whether you actually use those macros or whether they're in 10 pages nobody reads.
3 projects in the data, all actively maintained. Outline leads at nearly 40,000 GitHub stars, Wiki.js at 28,000, BookStack at 19,000. Licenses split between source available, HPL, and MIT, and that spread matters more than the feature matrix for most teams.
Here is the adoption picture, and the gap tells you something real. Outline has more than double the stars of BookStack. That often tracks actual deployments, not just bookmark clicks. But in this case, the spread reflects a genuine difference in design philosophy, not just popularity. Keep that in mind as we walk through each one.
Start with Outline because it handles the biggest share of what Confluence's daily job actually is: writing and reading team documentation with real-time collaboration. TypeScript codebase, clean markdown editor, team spaces with its own permission model, and an uncluttered interface. It was pushed to production as recently as yesterday.
The honest thing about Outline's license, the data shows no assertion in the SPDX field, which means the repository does not publish a standard machine-readable identifier. In practice, this is source available, you can read the code and most teams self-hosted without issue. If you are building a product on top of Outline or redistributing it commercially, check the actual license file before deploying. For internal team documentation, it is the most polished pick in this comparison.
Wiki.js is the enterprise-auth pick. SML, LDAP, GitHub OAuth, Google, Discord, dozens of authentication providers out of the box. If your team needs single sign-on without buying into Atlassian Access, Wiki.js covers it without any custom integration work. It also supports multiple storage backends, so your wiki content can live in Git, S3, or a local database.
AGPL 3.0 licensed, which is the clearest open-source license in this comparison, no ambiguity about what you can do. Inspect, modify, and self-host. The only AGPL consideration, if you modify Wiki.js and distribute it publicly, those changes go back under AGPL. For an internal team deployment, that never applies. Last pushed in mid-June, so it remains under active maintenance.
BookStack takes a different philosophy. It enforces structure. Every page lives inside a chapter inside a book. There is no free-floating doc that exists outside the hierarchy. If your Confluence spaces are already a mess of orphan pages with no clear home, BookStack's rigidity is a feature, not a constraint. It forces the organization your team probably should have set up years ago.
MIT license, the most permissive here, and the easiest license decision you will make in this comparison. One practical note worth knowing, the GitHub repository now shows that active development has moved to Codeberg. The GitHub mirror still functions and star counts still show there, but if you are tracking releases or filing issues, point at the Codeberg repository directly.
Now the gaps nobody mentions until after the migration. Confluence's Jira macros, live issue tables, sprint board embeds, roadmap views tied to active epics have no equivalent in any OSS wiki. You are replacing dynamic data widgets with static content. That is a fundamental capability change, not a missing feature that will be added next quarter.
Be specific about who this migration is wrong for. If half your Confluence pages are macros pulling live sprint data, you are not migrating a wiki, you are decommissioning a reporting layer that stakeholders probably check every Monday morning. No OSS wiki replaces that without rebuilding it from scratch.
If you are moving, here is the sequence. HTML export first, space tools, content tools, export. XML only if you need the complete backup, but know that XML requires custom parsers to land anywhere useful. The community Confluence to outline scripts clean up most of the HTML export, but macro cells arrive as empty placeholders that need manual work.
The 4-week parallel run is not bureaucracy. Confluence pages get updated during a migration. Someone will revise the quarterly roadmap on the old instance 2 days before you shut it down. The parallel period catches that the active pages nobody told you were still in use. Skip it and you will find out about those pages from an angry Slack message instead.
The decision framework. Outline if your team writes mostly narrative documentation and values the editor experience above all else. Wiki.js if enterprise authentication, SML or LDAP, is the non-negotiable requirement and you need it without custom integration work. BookStack if you want to impose documentation structure on a team that currently writes pages wherever feels convenient.
The full comparison with live star counts, active maintenance status, and the migration guide stays updated at the link in the description. If this helped you work out whether the switch actually makes sense for your team, subscribe. We do one of these every week, and a new tool drops every day.